Hey everybody, what's going on? So in this section, we're gonna talk all about presentations. Now for sales cycles, presentations are not always necessary. In some cases, you can close a deal without any presentation at all, and you can kind of discuss what you will do for the client and what results you'll get them. However, in other cases where you are demoing a product, let's say it's a software or something like that, then a presentation does make a lot of sense because people want to see what they are going to buy into. So with this section, what you're gonna do is you're gonna get the framework of how to structure your presentation. Now, every sale is gonna be different, so it's not going to be specific toward any specific industry. However, the framework you can actually use in any industry, so you can kind of just take it and use it for your own product or service. Now, the first thing you got to know about presentations is that before you even go into a presentation, you have to know what you're expecting, meaning there should be absolutely no surprises during this presentation. So you should know things like the customer's budget, when they're going to buy, who all the decision makers are, all these elements that we talked about throughout the entire course. You basically have to know them before entering a presentation. Now, if you don't feel confident or if you don't know all these things, you have to go back to the discovery phase of the sales cycle to figure it out. Because if you don't know these things during the presentation, it's really just a waste of time, because a presentation, really, you should be at that point where the customer is either going to say yes or no. However, if they're not able to make that decision by the end of the presentation, that means you just haven't done a good job of doing the work up front and getting all these items aligned. And again, before you enter a presentation, what you really need to do at the beginning of the meeting is you want to summarize everything that you talked about so far, meaning all of the critical elements from the customer's pain, their budget, who has the authority to make the decision, and the timing of when they will actually make that decision. You also want to make sure that you set the right expectations for the meeting, meaning you have to understand that the prospect is either going to say yes or no, but you never want a maybe. You have to know whether or not someone is going to buy or not buy. And if they're not going to buy, you need to understand why. So again, you want a yes, you want a no, and no is totally fine if it's not a fit, but you never want a maybe. And here are some other guidelines when it comes to any type of demo or presentation. You want to make sure that you're only discussing the critical pain points that you got during the qualification or discovery phase of the sales cycle. You don't want to introduce anything new. You don't want any surprises. All you want to do really is just to solve the customer pain points that you've already talked about. And throughout the entire presentation, if the customer asks any type of questions, just pause the presentation and answer it, because it makes it feel more engaging, makes it feel like you're listening, and that their question is probably very important for them to actually make that buying decision. Otherwise, they wouldn't have even asked in the first place. Now, here's basically the structure that I recommend for all your presentations. Whether you are doing a demo for technology or, no matter what it is, this is the format that I follow. So as you can see here, there's 3 parts where there's the beginning, the middle, end, which is the close, which is very simple. And basically in number 1, in the beginning, you're setting all the expectations like I just talked about, meaning that's your customer's pain, their budget, authority, time, all those things. Then you transition into summarizing all the pain points that you're going to solve, right? So from there, the middle is going to really just consist of all the pains that you're going to solve. And typically people will have about 3 to 5 pain points. So let's just say it's 3, right? So you solve pain 1, then you show how your solution, solves their problem, and you go number 2, number 3, right? Basically, it's just like problem solve, problem solve, problem solve. And then at the end of that, you summarize all the pain points and talk about why your product is so good in solving all their problems, and then you go for the close. So pretty much this is the simplest way that I've found to run a demo or a sales presentation, and in the end we're going to show you how to do the close. And so throughout this entire lesson, this is the structure we're going to use, and we're going to go much more in depth in every single part from beginning, middle, and close. So again, in the beginning of the presentation, what you want to do is just summarize everything you've talked about, from the pains, the budget, the timing, and authority, right? And you just want to talk about all the things that you talked about previously and just summarize everything. You want to make sure the prospect agrees to the expectations that you set, meaning you want to say something like, okay, after you summarize everything, you say, now, at the end of the presentation, either one of 2 things will happen. Either we find that it's a fit and then we move forward in closing the deal, or if we find there's not a fit and that's totally okay, but we're not going to get a maybe, right? And you want to make sure they verbally commit to your expectations. Now, if the prospect doesn't agree, then you actually just have to go back into the discovery phase of the sales cycle to figure out what these challenges are. And then from there, what you want to do is you want to transition into some type of introduction or compelling story. It could be a statistic or maybe a customer success story. It could be something like, nobody watches TV anymore and the cell phone is a new TV and you're trying to sell ads, right? That's just an example. So something really engaging in terms of getting their attention. From there, what you want to do is you want to summarize all the critical pain points. Usually it's 3 main pain points, 3 to 5, and then make sure that the customer understands like, okay, these are the pains that I'm hurting. Hopefully you can solve them. And then from there, you're going to transition into pain 1. Now, how you're actually going to do each pain point is you're going to use the persuasion formula. And the persuasion formula just comes down to the challenge, solution, and the why. The challenge being the main pain that they are experiencing, then your solution is how you're going to make their pain go away. And then after that, you explain why it's important, why your solution is better than everybody else, and why you're different. So you just go down the line, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, solve pain 1, solve pain 2, and then solve pain 3. Now, here's the trick when it comes to closing. When you are about 2/3 through your presentation, usually after going through your second or third pain, what you want to do is you want to use this strategy called on a scale of 1 to 10. So basically, after you finish solving the second pain, you're going to say, hey, now that we talked about a couple pain points that we can solve, what I wanted to do is I want to take a moment to see how interested you guys are so far, right? So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not interested at all and 10 being that you're ready to move forward, where do you feel in terms of our solution to your problems? And what may happen is they're going to give you a number from 1 to 10. Now, if it's less than 5, they say, hey, we're a 4, or it sounds like we're not that interested. What you want to say is, that's really interesting that you say that. It seems like you're just not interested in our product or service at all. Is there anything we can do to make that number higher? And so from there, what you're doing is if someone's not interested in your presentation, you have a way to make the presentation better midway by asking for their recommendation on what they would like to see. So once they tell you what they want to see, then you can kind of shift your presentation on the fly to match that expectation. Now, if they answer 5 to 7 and they're kind of interested but not really interested, maybe it's because you haven't fully finished your presentation, so they don't know whether or not they can actually make the purchase. So what you want to do if they answer 5 to 7 is you just want to continue the presentation, make sure you cover all their pains that you already talked about, and then at the end of the presentation, then you want to ask on the scale of 1 to 10, where are you at now? If they say still 5 to 7, then you want to say, okay, what do we need to do to make that higher? If they say something like 8 to 9 later on, then you want to say, okay, what can we do to make that a 10? And then finally, whenever they say 10, all you got to do is say, okay, great. Well, what happens next? Or what would you like to do now, right? So when they are a 10 out of 10, you want to just ask them a question. What do you want to do now? And they're going to tell you, let's just sign the deal, or whatever next step is in their decision-making process. So from there, you're not even asking for the close, right? This is one of the best secrets that I found in sales. Instead of hard pressuring someone into, signing a deal, you're basically getting them mentally to admit that they are a 10 out of 10 and they do want to buy. And so you want to ask them, okay, what do you want to do now? Or what's the next step? And they're going to tell you exactly what needs to happen in order for you to close the deal. And then you just follow those steps and the deal is closed. And by using this 1 to 10 technique, it's very powerful because if anyone's not giving you a 10 out of 10, you can just ask them why. And it's very easy and it's not intruding in any way. And it's very polite. It's like, okay, well, you're an 8 out of 10. How do we get you to a 10? I want to make sure this is right for you. And they're going to feel like you're really listening to them. Not only are they going to like you more, they're going to feel like they're not being pressured into buying something. And then they have the option to buy. And again, people love to buy and they don't want to be sold, right? And so by using the 1 to 10 technique, you're allowing the opportunity for someone to make a smart buying move. So with that said, that's pretty much the format when it comes to any type of demo, any type of presentation. This is really the blueprint that you can use whether you're selling a software, insurance, or shoes, or whatever it is, because if you can get someone to that 10, they are going to close themselves. So with that said, that's everything we have to cover when it comes to presentations, and I'm going to see you in the next section.